Now let's talk to our guest here this evening as we bring on Coach Doug Dinan from the Carroll Chargers. And Coach, I appreciate you coming to join us this evening. I've played at Penn. I still have nightmares when I played there as a junior quarterback against the Chris Kiesman, the tradition, and all that. It's not an easy place to go play and win. But you've had a couple of teams that have gone up there and done quite well in the Penn Kingsman's backyard, and Friday night was no different with a 42-30 regional championship win. I guess the first question is, what a ball game this was, just from a high school football game standpoint.
Yeah, it was. You guys hear me okay, first of all?
I got you perfectly, buddy.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be able to join you guys. And first of all, thank you for your coverage for high school sports and high school football, most importantly. Now, answering your question, Freed Field is a phenomenal place. They've got great atmosphere. We've been fortunate up there. I mean, we're 3-0. I hate to give Penn any fodder or anything, but we're 3-0. Up at Freed Field. The only time that Penn has beat us is in 2011. That's many years ago, and that was at our place. Back before we built a new stadium. So, a great football game. It really was. It was two good football teams competing. Having determination. Not showing any quit, having great resolve and making plays when you had to make plays. And that's what it boiled down to in the long run.
Yeah. And again, I said this a couple weeks ago. I just kind of felt you guys were playing your best ball here towards the end of the year with what your defense has been able to do. Your offensive running game had been coming along, and you kind of found that rhythm with, you've got Jackson Rhodes, the sophomore, Asher Wagner, who I love as a player, and his ability to flip over and, carry the ball. And then, of course, Gabe Freisinger, young man that took over for a gentleman that's in the Big Ten at Iowa, Jimmy Sullivan, who was Mr. Everything, and this kid steps in where the stage was not too big for him. And I just love the compete in this kid and what he was able to put together this year. Throwing the ball, he's been sensational. He throws for 424 yards at Penn, and that is no easy feat for a young quarterback that's in his first.
Yeah, rushed for over 100.
And rushed for over, so 500 total yards. That's no easy feat for a first-year starting quarterback to go, like we talked about, to Penn and do that in their backyard. But there hasn't been a stage this year that has been too big for this young man. Talk about Gabe and his development, this season, taking over for Jimmy, all the things that I'm sure the kid was hearing leading up to this year about, does he have the ability to do what Jimmy did? And I don't think there's any doubt when we talked in the summer that this young man had a bright future there as the Carroll Chargers quarterback.
Well, first of all, Gabe is a tremendous character. He has tremendous character. He is a great student athlete. He's a 4.1 student. He's got great parents. His mom is a teacher within the district. His dad was a football player. This was before I was there, but he leads the school in single season tackles. I mean, he was a great player as well. So the Freisinger name is all over the record book right now, because Gabe now holds, and he's just obliterated, the single season passing record.
Yeah.
And he's about ready to break the completion record in a season too, with one more will tie and two will break it. So that'll happen, pretty quickly. But, as you talked about, he had to be cast into a situation, with his first start, going to Hamilton Southeastern. And then, week 2 being home, with Center Grove, and again has never batted an eye. He is a tough kid. He is a competitor. On a daily basis, he grinds, he works, he shows everything that he is made of, and consequently, he performs on Fridays. And he's surrounded by a great cast of receivers.
No
Jaden
question.
Van Pelt and Mason Boffman, Logan Heath, and Harry Shealy. I mean, tremendous guys that will go get the ball and can vertically, split the defense at the same time. And you talk about the run game, with Jackson and Asher, and it's a tribute to the offensive line. It's a
Mm.
tribute to the offensive coaches. I just get the pleasure of, Gabe and I hang out and, spin the ball a little bit. And, Coach Poppy does all the play calling, and our offensive line coaches, Coach McCurr, Coach Hershey, Coach Stiver, they all do the great job with the guys up front. So, it's not one guy. It's not a one guy show. And, consequently, we're having success,
And
because of what they're doing.
that was the thing that I think is, especially in the latter part of the year, you had Jaden and Ballman and Shealy and those guys on the outside, but when you guys hit your stride running the football, just not with Gabe, I mean, we know that the quarterback run game is a very pivotal aspect of any offense because it just gives you an advantage, especially a defense that's not accounting for them. But when you got Rhodes involved, Asher involved, it just seemed like it kind of started taking off there at that latter part of the year. And to me, that was when, man, things seemed to sync up and you guys just were very difficult to defend in a lot of ways. I mean, do you kind of feel the same way about the run game and how it kind of developed as you went along, more so than kind of developing a passing game behind the run game as you go on? You know how that
Well,
happens with a first year kid?
there's an obvious need to be diverse offensively. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're one dimensional, you can easily be defended. And
Mm-hmm.
so we've got to have that. I mean, whether it be, Jackson or Asher or anybody else that's stepping in, Billy or Devon, and whoever those guys are that are stepping in to make plays, we've got to be able to run the ball. We love the +1 run game with quarterback. I mean, we loved it, with Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
We loved it with Jeff when Jeff was doing the same thing, Jeff Becker. The +1 run game, kind of evens things up. You either got to read the defender or you got to get an extra hat into the box. And so, be able to run the quarterback and have a quarterback that can run the ball, that gives an advantage. But again, you've got to be diverse. I mean, we like to throw it. I mean, Coach Poppy, can scheme up any pass, against any defense. And we love to throw it around. And our quarterbacks love that offense as well. And our offensive line, answers to that, with the pass protection, but we have to be able to run the football. And that's going to be a big test on Friday night.
Yeah, no question. The other thing that, just dawned on me when you mentioned who you had at quarterback, it's kind of been amazing with what you've been able to put behind center. You had Becker, who was a talented kid and just was a competitor. Jimmy Sullivan comes in, steps in. You find out, his ability and competitiveness. Now you got Freisinger coming in and doing what he's doing. The one thing that strikes me about him, then we're going to jump to defense because you can't forget about those guys because they've been playing a heck of a ball game all year. But Gabe's is so poised under pressure. We saw one of the throws he made in the kind of the highlights there from Penn where he has a guy off the edge that he's ultimately responsible for, but he's able to find the guy he needs to get the ball to, throws it on a dime for a big time completion. And again, the stage is not too big for him, and he has that poise that he's not panicking. I mean,
well, I feel like that you had the locker room and coach's office mic'd up for this weekend because in watching film from Friday night against Penn, there was a play out of the end zone
yeah,
that he actually to our sidelines made a tremendous throw for a first down And if you remember back in week 1 against Hamilton Southeastern, a very similar play happens, and he bails the pocket, tries to throw it away, and actually throws an interception. And we give him the ball on short yardage situation. So the maturation, the development has been quick. It had to be quick, but great. Gabe has greatly embraced the coaching, the scheme, players around him, and rallied guys to play and believe in the offensive system.
We'll jump over. I'll take one more question there, dude.
Go ahead.
I'm rolling tonight.
You got it.
I'm rolling.
You're in the locker room with the mic. You heard it here first.
I'm spying. That's what quarterback coaches do, right, Doug?
Yeah, right.
We have a tendency to talk too much, but defensively speaking, too, your defense this year and it has been in some respects just overwhelming some of the teams that you've played against. Brubaker, Golddecker,
Eli Newhouser.
Yeah, Newhouser, who I think
Coleman, Tipton, Asher, Wagner. I mean, you can go on and on, right?
Yeah. Well, Newhouser goes out there and kicks field goals now too, because your kicker got hurt, and he's got a pretty good leg on him too. But talk about your defense too, because they really hung in there for you, especially early on, like you talked about with a young QB. They were going to have to try to take some of that pressure off the offense, and for the better part, I would say that was pretty successful for them.
Yeah, our defense has done a tremendous job, and I could name, as you did, name after name. I mean, guys that have done a tremendous job. Evan Brubaker, a leader on the front with, Gavin Golddecker and Liam Keys. I mean, those guys have been dominant up front, and and we're a 3-4 team, but we'll show a 4-man front, we'll show a 5-man front. We'll play, 8 in the box. You have to, just like we are on offense, you have to be diverse on the defensive side.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys do a tremendous job. At the linebackers, you got Eli and Coleman, Tipton. Eli, if I'm not mistaken, has 125 tackles for the year, and Coleman is about ready to go over 100. I mean, the two guys into 100 total tackles on the season is phenomenal. That's the level that they're playing at, the second level. Asher Wagner, Austin Roars playing our outside linebackers. Austin gives us that ability to walk a guy down on the line of scrimmage, to give that 4-man front, or he can drop into coverage. And Asher does a tremendous job in space, usually to the 2 receiver side. In our secondary has been really good. Lincoln Grabner and we play Shy and Schlotterback. Those 2 guys rotate into the boundary safety, and our corners have been really good. Corners have been really good. Seth McCall has been really good, and Henry Shaw, who is only a sophomore, has been outstanding. And Jaden Van Pelt, as dynamic as he is on the offensive side, he's as good a DB. And you watch the end of that Penn game, and essentially we went man under 2 deep, and he locked it down. And he made a phenomenal play on robbing an out and then batting down a corner route that was behind him. So defensively, you're right. I mean, we have to be able to stop the run. We've got to be physical up front. We got to keep people out of the end zone, and they have done that all year long.
Sure. Carroll coach Doug Dinan joining us tonight on Upon Further Review. Coach, how much fun? I mean, we've been at a couple of these games, and it looks like the guys they're all having fun out there. How fun is it to be with this group each and every day?
I mean, it's high school athletics, and it should be fun. It should be, and they are having fun. On a daily basis, they enjoy being together. The culture in the locker room is set by them, and they do a tremendous job of being great teammates, of working together, and setting the culture for young guys that are coming through. And it's enjoyable. It really is. I mean, on a daily basis, we get the opportunity to go out there and hang out and practice and play ball. And we're doing it now in the semi-state. The picture that you're showing was from this last week. That happens to be on Monday. And there was about 3 inches in snow, and they were having a great time. And there were snowballs flying all over the place, and we had to shut that down so we could get some practice going. But Tuesday we got it cleared off, and it was a cold week. It was a week that you had to be dedicated and focused and battle through because the conditions were tough. But our kids persevered.
Sure. Next up for you guys, Westfield, a really strong program, another big boy in the state of Indiana. As preparations get ready for them, what some of the things you're keying in on, what are you looking at as a coach for this Westfield team coming out on Friday?
Yeah, I mean it's semi-state, right? I mean there are 4 teams left in the state in 6A, and every team's going to be good. You got Brownsburg and Warren Central out of the south, and us in Westfield out of the north. And Westfield's a very, very, very good football team. I mean they played for a state championship last year versus Brownsburg, and probably should have won that game. Brownsburg made some plays. The special teams came up big, and the Fry kid, the quarterback at Brownsburg, made some plays when he had to make plays. But Westfield is as they were last year. I mean, they're big. They are a run dominant team. They play great defense. They're long and big on the defensive side, and for us to be successful, I mean, we got to do what we do. I mean, it's we're not changing the plan. I mean, the plan is the plan, and the process is the process, right? And we got to continue to do what we do. We got to be able to spread the ball out. It's Gabe and it's Jaden and Mason and Harry and Logan and all those dudes. I mean, get them the ball and work in space and be efficient, use our tempo, and do all those things that we try to do well on a weekly basis.
The big game atmosphere. Carroll, you guys have been there quite a bit now. You went down to Indy, for state a couple years back, and you're, that for you guys, the ability to have that time and time again, kind of that tradition of being able to get back to those plays. How has that benefited your program when they get into these big late games in November, semi-state regionals, that kind of stuff, where they've been there, so that part of it, they're used to it?
I kind of look back, and we talk about this a lot in the program, because there's been a delineation between being average and being elite. And I'm not saying that we're elite, but we're a lot better than what we were then in the around 2015, 2016, 2018, around there. And I think a lot of it is that's the schedule that we're playing. In 2021, we played Westfield for a regional regional championship, yes, and they beat us up here at our place, and that's the only time that we've played them. But since then, we've played Indy schools. We've played in the state championship. We played against Hamilton Southeastern and Warren Central and Center Grove, and the conference within itself is difficult, playing against teams like Homestead and Snyder and Dwenger and Northrop, a resurgent team this year, and Northside. Finding some, very good seasons here in the recent future. I think it does prepare you. And I think that there is big game atmosphere on a weekly basis. You come on out to, the Carroll Stadium and on a Friday night, and it's electric, and it's a small college atmosphere, and the kids embrace it. And our administration does a great job of hosting it, and it is fun, and then we're enjoying what we're doing.
Hey, Doug, when I look at this Westfield team, it looks like they play a couple quarterbacks. One's a sophomore,
Yep.
Melvin, and Grabowski is the other young man who's
Correct.
a senior. They've combined to throw for almost 1,800 yards. And, man, they also have that plus running game, it looks like, with Grabowski. He's the second leading rusher, I believe, with 547
Right.
yards. Kind of like you guys in a lot of ways offensively, because they also have that got to be able to spread it around mentality. They've got 3 or 4 kids that can, go out and run routes and catch it. So is this offense that you're going up against Friday night similar in terms of what you faced outside of going against yourself?
Yeah, I mean they're obviously a run dominant team. I mean they want to run the football. I mean they were going to play in at least 11 personnel. They're always going to play with the tight end. I mean, sometimes twice, sometimes two, and then 12 personnel. But they do as well, like the +1 run game with the quarterback. They'll throw it, but they're going to run it, a large more percentage of the time. It's like teams that we have played against. I mean, it's like, Dwenger, who is still having success. I mean, they're a run dominant team that they will, complement the run game with the pass. Center Grove, much the same. I mean, they're going to play with, a couple tight ends and they're going to run the ball extremely well and they're going to complement the pass with it. And Hamilton Southeastern was the same way. Unfortunately, they lost their quarterback, who was a tremendous athlete, that played against us week 1. But, yes, we have seen, these types of offenses. This is probably the best, outside of Center Grove, the overall best offensive line as an entire unit that we'll probably face all year long. So, it's a challenge without question. Without question, it's a challenge.
And it looks like defensively they're pretty much a senior latent team, junior, senior latent team, and we know how that is important. But if I'm reading the Max Preps right, they've had 41 sacks on the year, and 12 of them has come from I guess it's Ambrose Boyles.
Yep. Correct.
Talk a little bit about this defense that you're going to face this Friday night there at Carroll, and what are some of the challenges that you're going to be facing?
Well, the challenge is especially, as you pointed out, is that they rush the passer extremely well. They are typically a 4-2-5 team. They will play, some cover 3. They will play 1 high, but they're going to be a 2 high a lot. In passing situations, they're going to have 3 down, drop 8, which is very familiar to what we have seen a lot. But they get after it. They're long, they're big. Their defensive line is good size. Their linebackers run, from sideline to sideline extremely well. And they got cover guys, that can get after it and play too. I mean, Cato June's son, playing corner, number 11. I mean, that's a dude in the NFL. I don't know. You can get better tutelage than your dad teaching you how to play the game when he played in the league. So I mean, they've got players on both sides of the ball, absolutely. And these are guys that, again, that played in the state championship last year, and I'm sure that are very hungry to get back there and to repeat and to win it, I'm sure. But we're going to do everything we can to eliminate that situation for them.
Well, so what you're telling me is staying on schedule Friday night will be the utmost important thing offensively, because it sounds like you do not want to get in 3rd and long too much with these cats.
Yeah, but maintaining possession of the ball is a necessity, and we can do that, in a multitude of ways, running the ball and passing the ball, but we don't fret too much about 3rd and long, because you got guys that can take the roof off. We got guys that can go get it, but maintaining possession of the ball, giving our defense a break, and coming away and ending every drive with a kick is essential. And we want to get as many points on the board and score as quickly as possible.
Well, Doug, I appreciate you joining us here this evening here on Upon Further Review, giving us some of the great insight of what you're going to face on Friday night, but also cluing us in on the big win up at Penn. Much success Friday night. We'll be there covering it on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. And quick question, is that going to be a 7:30 start, or do you know?
7:30. Yep.
Okay.
7:30.
So a 7:30 start there for the Carroll Chargers versus Westfield. Doug, great having you, and best of luck Friday night, and we look forward to watching you boys play again.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Shannon and Eric. Thank you guys very much for all the coverage and everything you guys do.